Why did she ask for your full name 3 times in a row? Think about that. Why would a stranger, a neighbor, or even someone from your own circle lean in with an unsettling calm and say, "Tell me your name again slowly"? That is not a casual question. That's not innocent. That's a spiritual fingerprint request. You see, witches and dark practitioners don't walk around with flashing signs. They come in whispers, in smiles that don't reach the eyes, and in questions that seem ordinary, until they bind your energy without you ever knowing it. They don't need permission the way you think. They need access, and they get it with questions. That's why the most powerful tool a manipulator, spiritual or otherwise, uses isn't force, it's curiosity cloaked in charm. They ask you things that disarm you, questions that make you lower your guard. They test your boundaries not with violence, but with subtlety. And if you don't recognize it, you surrender yourself willingly. Have you ever had someone ask you, "What's your mother's maiden name?" in casual conversation? Stop right there. That's not small talk. That's ancestral access. That's an attempt to trace your spiritual line, to attach their intent not just to you, but to those who came before you. It's a question that seems like it belongs on a form, but spoken out loud in a strange place by someone who smiles too much. It's a red flag you ignore at your own risk. Another one. What time were you born? Oh, don't mistake that for astrology. That is an invitation for them to chart your spiritual coordinates. When they know your name, your birth time, your emotional wounds, do you understand what they can do with that? They can build a spiritual map of your vulnerabilities, not just who you are, but when you're weakest. And if they're good, they don't just observe. They influence. People think spells are big dramatic rituals with blood and candles. No, the real dangerous ones happen quietly. In conversations. In agreements you make without realizing. A witch or wizard who knows what they're doing doesn't need to touch you. They need to ask the right question and have you answer it. Like this one. Have you ever felt cursed? Pay attention. That question isn't meant to help you. It's meant to confirm if something dark is already attached to you, or to see how easily you can be made to believe it. Because once you say, yes, you're not just reflecting, you're aligning. Your words have power, and they know it. That's why they provoke your fear, because fear weakens spiritual immunity. When they find your fear, they find the crack in your armor. Do you keep something of sentimental value with you all the time? That question sounds like it's about your favorite necklace, your father's watch, your child's photo. But in truth, that's a soft probe to find a token they can spiritually attach to. You think it's just a charm. They think it's a doorway. And here's one they love. Do you dream often? Tell me about your last dream. Be careful. Witches access you most easily when your conscious mind is turned off. When you start describing your dream, they're not just listening. They're mapping your subconscious fears, desires, and symbols. If they can interpret it, they can manipulate it. And if they can reach you in your dreams, they can plant ideas that feel like your own. Then comes the innocent sounding, "What do you wish for most?" That is not a motivational question. That is bait. You name it, your desire, your longing, and if their intent is dark, they now have something to dangle in front of you. You may think you're manifesting, but what you're doing is telling someone else what your soul is willing to bargain for. And in the wrong hands, that can cost you everything. And this one is chilling. Would you do anything to protect the ones you love? Don't just answer that blindly. Because when you say, anything, you have no idea what's just been agreed to in the spirit world. That's the kind of statement witches and warlocks wait for. It gives them access to use your love against you, to create false choices, to make you believe that if you don't comply, someone will suffer. That question binds your morality to their manipulation. And if you answer too fast, they know you're emotionally leveraged. Lastly, do you believe in magic? You think it's playful. You think it's for fun, but it's a test. If you say no, they know you'll never notice what's being done to you. If you say yes without discernment, you might give your power away too easily. The real danger isn't in believing or not. It's in being unaware. You see, these questions aren't just words. They're permissions. Every time you answer without thinking, you open a door. You give energy, location, memory, emotion, And witches, sorcerers, energy manipulators, they don't cast with wands. They cast with knowledge, with precision, with access you gave them, because you didn't know better. And that's what I want for you now, to know better. Stay alert. Watch the questions people ask. Watch the tone, the timing, the silence afterward. People who want to bless you don't need your secrets. But those who seek to bind you, they come softly. They ask questions that feel harmless. And then they use your answers to build the very spell you never saw coming. You don't realize how much you give away with your words, especially when you're not paying attention. People think danger always comes through actions. But the most calculated, sinister forms of control, they come through questions. Questions are not innocent, they are tools. Tools that test your awareness, probe your limits, and open gates you didn't even know existed. A witch doesn't walk up to you and say, "I'm going to curse you now." That's not how this works. What they do instead is study you. They get you to speak, to open your energy, to give them permission without ever realizing you've done it. And it doesn't have to be dramatic. Sometimes, all they need is one carefully crafted question, a single sentence wrapped in charm, and you hand over access. You disarm yourself. You think you're being polite, being friendly, being cooperative. But you're not. You're exposing yourself. Because every question that comes from someone with bad intent is a disguised door. And your answer, that's the key. That's what gives them entry. Not to your house, not to your phone, but to your soul, to your aura, to your mental state. When someone asks you something that makes your gut clench just a little, that sets off a strange flicker in your chest, you must pay attention. That's your intuition screaming at you. Because questions can be weapons. When you underestimate that, when you think you're too smart to be manipulated, you are exactly the kind of person they can break without force. You won't even know it happened, until everything starts falling apart and you can't trace back why. You answered a question, that's why. You opened the door. There's a reason they always start with your name. Not just your nickname, not what people casually call you, but your full name. First, middle, last. They want it spoken out loud, clearly, sometimes even 3 times. You think that's odd, but you go along with it. Because it feels harmless, right? It's not. It's never just about identity. It's about possession. Your full name isn't just what people use to call you. It's your signature in the spiritual realm. It carries weight. It carries vibration. And when someone says your full name with intent, especially if it's repeated, what they're doing is locking in your energetic pattern. They're anchoring you into something. This is why names are used in ancient spells, incantations, rituals across cultures. Because your name isn't just information, it's power. And the more times it's spoken with focus, the more it draws a thread to you. That's why you'll notice the most manipulative people, the ones who want control, they say your name often. Repeatedly, strategically. They'll look you right in the eye and ask for it again like they didn't catch it the first time. But trust me, they heard you just fine. What they want is for you to speak it again, out loud. Because when you speak your own name, you activate your own vibration, and if someone's tuned in with bad intent, they can harness that frequency. This isn't superstition. This is psychology meeting energy. And if you don't respect that, if you just give out your full name without paying attention to who's asking or why they're asking, you're already compromised. You didn't get hexed in a forest with a cauldron. You got hexed in your living room, smiling, thinking it was small talk. That's how good they are. They don't need to break in. You open the door and hand them the key. All they needed was your name. You've probably heard someone casually ask, "What time were you born?" And most people laugh, roll their eyes, and say, "Oh, are you into astrology?" But what you don't realize is that question can be far more loaded than it seems. In the wrong hands, your birth time isn't a quirky detail. It's a spiritual coordinate. It's like handing over the exact GPS location of your soul. Because with your full name, date of birth, and the time you took your first breath, they can map the energetic blueprint of your life. Not metaphorically. Literally. That's how specific it gets. There are practitioners out there, witches, warlocks, even seemingly harmless spiritualists, who know exactly what to do with that information. They can chart your high and low cycles, your strengths, your blind spots. They can calculate when you're most spiritually vulnerable, what hour, what day, what year. And if they have malicious intent, they don't just observe that vulnerability, they exploit it. They time their influence around it. They align their manipulation with your weakest energetic point. You won't even feel it happening. You'll just notice things falling apart when your guard is lowest. And you gave them that power over coffee, in a moment where you thought you were just being open, just having a conversation. That's the danger of ignorance. You don't know what you're handing over when you think it's meaningless. But they do. They always know. So when someone asks you when you were born, pause. Ask yourself, why do they need that? What are they trying to read? What are they trying to reach? Because if you answer carelessly, you're not just sharing a memory, you're offering access to your entire spiritual architecture. They'll look at you with a warm smile and say something like, "What was your mother's maiden name?" Or maybe it's, "What's your grandmother's name?" And you answer it without thinking. Because it sounds innocent, like something you've probably been asked 100 times for a security question. But in the wrong context, with the wrong person, that question is not about curiosity, it's about connection. That name links you to your bloodline, and in spiritual terms, your lineage isn't just your history, it's your inheritance. It carries both power and burden, blessings and trauma. And if someone has access to that name, they may not just be targeting you. They might be reaching through you, into your generational line. Witches and dark energy workers don't always come for you directly. Sometimes, they go through your roots. If they can get the name of the woman who birthed you, or the one who birthed her, they have a key to your foundation. Because your ancestral line carries memory, and memory is energy. When they speak that name with intent, they're trying to open doors that may have been shut for decades or centuries. They want to stir old wounds, reactivate dormant generational curses, or even redirect unresolved spiritual debts straight to you. And if you think that's dramatic, you've already underestimated how far manipulation can go when it's cloaked in spiritual practice. You think you're just having a personal conversation, but what you're really doing is giving someone the password to your bloodline. And if they have the skill, they'll use it to trace the energy backwards, then forward again, straight into your life. That's why you have to be so intentional about what family details you share, especially with people whose energy feels off, whose interest in your background seems too deep, too fast. Because that question about your mother, it's not about her, it's about the door she represents. And you just handed them the handle. They'll come to you gently. Soft eyes, a quiet voice, a presence that seems like it's trying to help, and then they'll drop it in your lap like it's a harmless check. In "Have you ever felt cursed?" Now, that might sound like a joke. You might laugh it off, maybe nod and say, "Yeah, sometimes it feels like everything goes wrong at once." But the second you say it, really say it out loud, you are doing something that's far more dangerous than you think. You're not just answering a question, you're aligning with an energy. You are confirming, accepting, and even reinforcing a belief that something dark has been done to you. And in that moment, the door swings open. That question is not about comfort. It's not about concern. It's a spiritual test. It's used to assess how open you are to suggestion, how easily you'll agree to an idea that someone else plants. When you say yes, even half-heartedly, you've already begun to invite that narrative into your energy field. Because dark practitioners understand this, your belief is more powerful than their ritual. If they can make you believe you're cursed, they don't even need to curse you. You'll start doing it to yourself. You'll give away your confidence, your peace, your clarity. You'll begin sabotaging your relationships, your health, your future, all because a simple question activated a fear you never resolved. This is how spiritual warfare really works. It's psychological first, energetic second. And the people who play in this dark space, they don't throw fire, they throw seeds. And if you let them take root, if you feed them with fear, with doubt, with repeated storytelling, they will grow into something that feels real. But here's what's worse. They often already know the answer before they ask. That question, "Do you feel cursed?" isn't random. It's based on what they already sense in you. Your energy, your trauma, the way you walk, speak, even breathe. They're scanning you the moment they meet you, and once they see the fracture, the place where your confidence is low, where your past still haunts you, they know exactly what button to push, because people who feel cursed act differently. You walk with hesitation, you doubt your instincts, you second-guess good things, you expect bad outcomes, you blame invisible forces for your failures. And when someone suggests maybe something's been done to you, it doesn't sound that far off. It sounds like a possible explanation, and that's the hook. That's the entry point. If they can make you believe it, they can make you live it. And now they've got control, not through force, not through ritual, but through your own mind. And let's go deeper. What happens after you admit you feel cursed? They offer to help. Of course they do. That's the second layer of the trap. They tell you they know how to remove it, break it, protect you. But in exchange, they want something. Sometimes it's money. Sometimes it's personal information. Sometimes it's just access to you, more conversations, more trust, more energy. You think they're helping, but in reality they're building a dependency. Because as long as you believe the curse is real, and as long as you believe they're the only one who can lift it, they own you. That's the most terrifying part of all of this. You don't see the chains being built. You don't feel the spell being cast. Because there's no chanting, no candles, no circle drawn in chalk. The real spell was cast the moment you believed them. The moment you adopted the narrative that you're cursed, broken, or spiritually attacked. You didn't need a potion. You only needed doubt. And here's something even more dangerous. Once that belief takes hold, your brain starts scanning your environment for confirmation. Bad day at work. Must be the curse. Fight with a loved one. The curse again. Health issue. It's getting stronger. You begin to interpret everything through that lens. And that's how a lie becomes a pattern. That's how a manipulative question becomes your new reality. Now let's flip it. Why would someone ask you this question if they didn't intend to curse you? Let's talk intention. Because sometimes, that question is not a probe, it's a setup. It's spoken with the purpose of planting the very fear that opens the spiritual gate. They ask you if you feel cursed so that you start feeling cursed. That is the game. They are not checking on you. They are infecting you with suggestion, like a virus. And when your mind accepts that suggestion, your body, your spirit, your outcomes, they all begin to follow. This is how psychological warfare becomes spiritual warfare. And it all started with a question. One question, asked at the right moment, with the right tone by someone who already had a plan. That is how subtle this gets. That's why awareness isn't a luxury. It's your defense. You must train yourself to listen between the words. Watch the eyes. Listen for silence after the question. Because sometimes, it's not what they say. It's the stillness after they say it. That's when they're watching you. That's when they're reading how much fear you hold. That's when they're measuring how much control they could take. And if you've ever felt off after a conversation like that, like something was taken from you, like your piece got up and walked out the door with them, that wasn't your imagination, that was energy theft, spiritual trespassing, and it started with a single sentence dressed as concern. So the next time someone looks you dead in the eye and asks, "Do you feel cursed?" You stop, you breathe, you ask yourself, why do they need to know that? What would they gain from hearing me say yes? And if your gut clenches, if your spirit shrinks even a little, walk away. Don't entertain it. Don't explain. Don't engage. Because if someone is willing to use your fear against you, they've already decided they're not there to help you. They're there to feed off you. And the truth is this: the most dangerous curses are not the ones cast with fire and blood. They're the ones you unknowingly cast on yourself, after someone convinced you that you were powerless, that you were marked, that you were broken. But you're not. You were just tricked into believing you were, and that's the spell you have to break. They'll compliment it first. That ring on your finger. That bracelet you never take off. The necklace with your child's initials. And then they ask, does this mean something to you? Or maybe more directly, do you wear this every day? And you, feeling seen, maybe even touched by their interest, say yes. You tell them how your grandmother gave it to you. How it brings you comfort. How you feel weird without it. But you don't realize what you just did. You didn't just share a story, you exposed a spiritual anchor. Because when you tell someone what you carry close to your heart, literally and energetically, you're showing them where you're vulnerable. That sentimental object isn't just a keepsake. It's a part of your emotional field. It holds your memories, your attachments, your comfort. It holds you. And someone with dark intent doesn't need to curse your body. They go for what you love, what you cling to, what you've emotionally charged. You think that ring is just metal. That picture in your wallet is just paper. Not when you've given it meaning. Not when you've poured your emotion into it for years. That's not just an item anymore. That's a portal. It carries your frequency. And if someone knows what it is, if they've seen it, touched it, even just learned what it means to you, they can work through it. They can bind intention to it. Because in spiritual warfare, energy follows emotion. And anything charged with emotion becomes an open conduit if left unguarded. You'd be shocked how many people walk around every day wearing their vulnerability around their neck. Their dead parent's ring, their child's baby photo, a lock of hair, a name carved into metal they keep against their skin. And I'm not saying those things are wrong. I'm saying you need to protect what matters. Because witches, manipulators, energy predators, they don't always come for your mind. Sometimes they come for the object you've fused with your soul, strength. They know it's easier to curse the object than to confront the person. Because you're guarding yourself, but you're not guarding what's attached to you. And let me be clear, this doesn't mean they need to steal it. They don't need to take your ring or your necklace or your photo. In most cases, they only need to know it exists. Your own words gave them the path. You told them what you love. You told them what you treasure. And if their intention is twisted, they will use that attachment against you. They will wrap their energy around what you carry close, and you'll start to notice things. Nightmares, heaviness, emotional shifts. Without ever realizing that the source is hanging from your wrist or sitting in your pocket. Now ask yourself this. Why did they want to know what you always keep with you? Why did they go out of their way to ask about something so small, so personal? Because it was never about the item. It was about the access. You gave them a spiritual fingerprint. You handed them your softest spot disguised as a sweet memory. That's the danger. And the worst part. You'll think you're going crazy. You'll take that bracelet off one day and feel better, but you won't connect the dots. You'll put it back on and the anxiety creeps in again. You'll think it's just coincidence. That's what they count on, you dismissing what your spirit already knows. So you want to protect yourself. Start with silence. Stop oversharing. Not everyone deserves to know what holds your heart. Because once they do, they don't need to curse you. They just need to reach what you've emotionally tied yourself to. That's how deep this goes. That's how precise they are. And that's how careful you need to be. They'll lean in gently, like they're genuinely curious, and ask you something that sounds so innocent. Do you dream often? You pause, maybe even smile, because most people don't ask about dreams anymore. So you open up. You say yes. You talk about the weird one you had last week. The one where you were running, but couldn't move. The one where someone was watching you from the shadows. You tell them about the ocean that kept pulling you in. The house you keep seeing, the face that shows up but never speaks. You think you're just sharing, but what you've actually done is hand over your subconscious on a silver platter. You see, your dreams are not just dreams. They are windows into your inner world. They reveal what you fear, what you desire, what you're trying to bury. And if someone with the wrong energy is asking about them, it's not because they want to analyze them like some curious psychologist. It's because they want access. Dreams are spiritual territory. When your body sleeps, your conscious defenses go down. You are most open, most unguarded, and for those who know how to walk that realm, it becomes the easiest place to plant suggestion, to attack energy, to interfere. They ask you about your dreams to study your symbolism, to decode the spiritual language your conscious mind doesn't even understand. That recurring nightmare, it tells them where your trauma lives. That dream where you're always lost or searching. It reveals your spiritual disorientation. The moment you describe your dream out loud, they start mapping your vulnerabilities. They listen for patterns, for imagery, for clues that expose exactly what part of you hasn't healed yet. And that's where they'll aim. And here's where it gets even more disturbing. Some of them don't just ask about your dreams, they try to enter them. They don't need to be in the room with you when you sleep. All they need is a connection, a conversation, a token, a memory, an open gate. And the moment you start thinking about them before you fall asleep, the moment they occupy your mind in those quiet, unguarded hours, that's their opportunity. They slip in through thought, through emotion, through the invisible bond created when you spoke something vulnerable in their presence. You ever have a dream where someone was there that you didn't expect? Someone from real life who suddenly shows up in your dream in a strange or intense way. And afterward, you wake up feeling drained, anxious, unsettled. That's not just your imagination. That might be someone entering your dreamscape, intentionally. People who work with dark energy know that dreams are fertile ground. And if they can appear there, influence there, attach there, you won't even know what's real anymore. You'll just start changing. Getting colder, more tired, more reactive. You'll say things you don't mean. Feel things that aren't yours. Because the seed was planted while you were asleep. This is why they're so calculated when they ask, "What was your last dream about?" It's not small talk, it's spiritual reconnaissance. And if you don't realize that, you'll keep opening the door wider every time you speak. Every time you explain the symbols. Every time you share the fear. They are not helping you understand your dream. They are learning how to control the story that unfolds in it. They want to be able to write the next one. You've got to understand. When you sleep, your body rests, but your spirit travels. And if you've ever felt like something followed you back, like you woke up with a heaviness that wasn't there the night before, that's not just bad sleep. That's spiritual residue. That's the consequence of being energetically unguarded. And if someone with the wrong intent has been in your ear, in your thoughts, and then shows up in your dreams, you're not just remembering, you're being reached. So the next time someone casually asks you about your dreams, check their energy. Watch their face when you speak. Listen to what they ask next. Are they helping you make sense of it? Or are they digging deeper, fishing for symbols, tracking the emotional current beneath your words? Because if their interest grows the darker your dream gets, if they seem more engaged the more disturbed you felt, then you're not in a safe conversation. You're in a setup, and the moment you feel that, you shut it down. You protect your subconscious like you would your home. Because your dreams are sacred ground, and not everyone deserves the right to walk there. They'll ask you with the softest voice, like it's just curiosity, "What do you wish for most?" And it feels like a kind question, a gentle moment, like someone actually cares about your dreams. So you tell them, you open up, you say you want to be free from the pain. You want real love, you want to succeed, you want peace. And just like that, the most intimate piece of your soul is no longer private, it's out in the open. And if that person has dark intent, then what you thought was a moment of connection just became the beginning of control. Because wishes aren't just ideas, they're spiritual currency. They are fueled by longing, and anything fueled by longing has power. When you speak your deepest desire out loud, it creates a current, an energetic imprint. You don't just tell someone what you want, you tell them what you're willing to suffer for, what you'll compromise for, what you'll chase, even if it costs you everything. That's why manipulators love that question. They want to see what you're hungry for, what makes you ache. Because once they know that, they know how to get you. They don't need to trick you with something random. They bait you with exactly what you told them you wanted. And here's the thing, they don't always need to give it to you. They just need to dangle it. Illusion is enough. They feed you breadcrumbs that look like your wish, smell like it, feel close enough to touch, but always just out of reach. And you chase it. You follow the trail. You become emotionally invested in what was never real, and in the process, they guide your steps, your thoughts, your decisions, because they've positioned themselves as the gatekeeper to what your soul craves most. You think that only happens in toxic relationships. It happens in spiritual manipulation all the time. Witches, energy predators, false healers. They position themselves as the answer to your pain, the key to your dream. And it all starts with that one soft question, what do you wish for? You don't even realize what you've done. You gave them the blueprint, the one thing they needed to build a trap that you wouldn't just walk into. You'd run into, heart first, and this goes deeper. Because sometimes, the wish they ask you about isn't a desire, it's desperation. I just want the pain to stop. I want someone to finally love me. I want to feel whole again. Those aren't just statements. Those are emotional signatures. And someone who knows how to read energy doesn't hear words, they feel weakness. They feel where your soul is exposed. And that's where they strike. They'll offer you a solution, a ritual, a spell, a blessing, something that seems harmless or even sacred, but it comes with strings, it always does, because it's not about healing you, it's about binding you. Binding your desire to their power. They want you to believe that without them, your wish can't come true. And that's how they get obedience. That's how they get loyalty, not through force, but through hope. But hope given to the wrong hands becomes a leash. They won't use fear to control you. They'll use your own dream. They'll twist it, stretch it, attach it to them so tightly that you start thinking they are the dream. That without them, you'll never get it. That's not love. That's not mentorship. That's manipulation. And it's dangerous because it doesn't feel like control. It feels like guidance. So ask yourself, when you told that person what you wished for most, did they empower you to find it within yourself? Or did they position themselves as the only one who could help you get there? That's the difference between support and spell work. One lifts you up. The other keeps you leaning. And maybe the scariest part of all this. Sometimes they'll give you just enough of the wish to keep you from noticing you're in bondage. They'll give you a taste of success, a whisper of peace, a glimpse of love, and then snatch it back. And every time you feel that loss, you come back to them for more, not realizing that they're the reason you're in a cycle at all. That is the craft of a spiritual manipulator. That is the precision of dark energy. And it all started because you answered a question that felt harmless. You told someone what your heart needed, and now they own the very thing you'd sacrifice yourself to achieve. They won't shout it. They won't ask it like a challenge. It'll be quiet, deliberate, timed just right, usually when you're talking about someone you love. They'll look at you and ask, would you do anything to protect them? And it sounds noble. It sounds like they're acknowledging your loyalty, your love, your devotion. So you answer quickly, of course, I'd do anything. And in that one sentence, you don't even realize the contract you've just made. Because that's not a question. It's a setup. It's a spiritual agreement cloaked as a compliment. And when you say yes, you don't just give them your word. You give them leverage. Because here's what most people miss: anything is not a casual word. It's a wide open door. It has no boundaries. It's the kind of statement that tells someone exactly how far you're willing to go, and exactly how much they can manipulate you. And if they're skilled in dark intent, they will use it. They will frame future choices in ways that twist your own values against you. They'll put you in situations where doing something harmful feels like the only way to protect the one you love. That's the trap. It's not just spiritual. It's psychological. It's emotional. And it's calculated. They know that love is your weakness. And not because love itself is weak, because love is powerful, but it's also the most easily exploited force when it's unguarded. You do anything to protect your child, your partner, your sibling. That sounds honorable. But what if someone uses that devotion to make you agree to something you'd never normally allow? What if they put you in a corner where protecting them requires you to submit, to lower your guard, to accept something dark, to carry an energy that wasn't yours to begin with? That's how they work. They twist your noblest quality into a spiritual liability. They make you believe that silence is protection, that compliance is loyalty, that if you say no, you're putting your loved one in danger. They trap you between fear and duty. And that's where they get control, not by overpowering you, but by weaponizing the love you feel for someone else. And the worst part, you won't even see it at first. You'll think you're making sacrifices for the right reasons. You'll rationalize things that feel wrong. You'll ignore your gut, because now there's someone else involved, someone you love. And when love becomes the reason you silence your instincts, when love makes you ignore red flags, that's not love leading you anymore. That's fear, That's emotional coercion disguised as loyalty. They might not even need to act. Just the threat that something bad could happen is enough to keep you in line. Because once you've declared out loud that you'd do anything to protect someone, the manipulator holds that statement like a weapon. They know they don't have to fight you. They just have to trigger that fear again. And you'll obey. Not for them, but for the person you love. That's the brilliance of the manipulation. You don't even see them as the threat anymore. You see them as the one preventing the threat. That's how it gets twisted. That's how people stay under the thumb of spiritual manipulators for years, because they're not protecting themselves, they're protecting someone else. And the guilt of even questioning that link feels like betrayal. That's how tightly they wind the cord around your heart. And that's how easily they pull it when they need compliance. So the next time someone asks you, would you do anything to protect them? Don't answer automatically. Pause. Think. Ask yourself, why are they asking? What do they plan to do with your answer? Because if someone is trying to tie your love to obedience, your loyalty to silence, your protection to submission, then they're not asking to honor your heart. They're asking to own it. They'll throw it out casually, like it's a joke, like they're just playing around. Do you believe in magic? And in that moment, you think you're being invited into some harmless fun. Maybe you smirk. Maybe you say, not really. Or maybe you lean in and say, yes, absolutely. But either way, they're not really asking for your opinion. They're testing your awareness. That question isn't about belief. It's about permission. Because how you answer tells them everything they need to know about how protected, or how exposed, you really are. If you say no, and you say it with that arrogance some people have, like you're above it, they know something right away. They know you don't believe in what's real beyond the physical. They know you've got no spiritual armor, no sense of the unseen. You're walking around thinking you're untouchable because you can't see it, and that makes you the easiest target. You won't notice what's happening when your energy starts shifting, when things start falling apart, when your thoughts suddenly aren't your own. You'll explain it all away. Bad luck, bad mood, bad timing. You'll never suspect that someone did it intentionally, because you don't believe that someone could. And if you say yes, especially too quickly, too eagerly, they read that too. They see someone who might already be open to anything and anyone. No discernment, no filters. You just believe, and that sounds beautiful, but in a spiritual war zone, it makes you vulnerable. Because belief without boundaries is a door without a lock. You're wide open, trusting, receiving everything without knowing what you're letting in. That's exactly the kind of person a dark practitioner can exploit. You'll say yes to the wrong people. You'll mistake power for light. You'll follow energy just because it feels strong, without ever questioning the source. So when they ask if you believe in magic, they're scanning your mindset. They're measuring your skepticism, your faith, your ignorance, your curiosity. Because that belief, whatever form it takes, is what creates the opening. It tells them whether they can enter quietly, or whether they'll have to break through resistance. And if they know you have none, they walk right in. See, belief is a gate. It can protect you, or it can invite danger straight to your doorstep. That's why people who understand energy don't say yes or no blindly. They stay alert, they read the room. They ask themselves, who's asking and why? Because people who genuinely honor the spiritual world don't need to test your beliefs. But people who want control, they start with that. They want to know how seriously you take your own safety, how aware you are of what exists beyond what you can see. And if you're asleep at the wheel, if you've reduced magic to a fairy tale, then you'll never notice how real it is until you're already entangled in it. And let's be honest, most people don't really know what they believe. They say one thing, but live another. They light candles without intention. They speak affirmations without knowing whose voice they're echoing. They wear symbols they don't understand. They open themselves up in rituals, in meditations, in conversations with people they barely know, and then wonder why their peace disappears, why their sleep is restless, why they feel drained, confused, pulled. Because belief without awareness is not protection, it's exposure. So that question, do you believe in magic? Don't just answer it like it's a game. Don't let your guard down because someone said it with a smile. That question is a probe, a test, a quiet knock at the edge of your spirit, and whether you say yes or no isn't about being right, it's about being ready. Ready to discern, ready to protect, ready to understand that your beliefs, spoken or unspoken, shape the very shield you walk around with every single day. If you've made it this far, you already feel it. This isn't just superstition, and it's definitely not a joke. Those strange questions people ask, they're not innocent, they're spiritual traps. They are precision tools used by individuals who understand how to manipulate, influence, and even control you without ever raising their voice. This isn't about being paranoid, it's about being aware. Because once you recognize the patterns, once you understand the intent behind the question, you can no longer play dumb. You can't unsee what's real. The most dangerous spells aren't cast with wands and cloaks. They're cast with words, with access, with the parts of yourself you hand over too freely. Your name, your birth time, your pain, your loyalty, your silence, all of it becomes currency, and the person asking knows exactly what they're buying with it. This is the part where you choose who you want to be going forward. The one who sleeps through the storm, or the one who senses when the wind shifts. Because once you become aware, there's no going back. You either sharpen your boundaries or you remain wide open. You either build your spiritual immunity or you stay exposed. But understand this, you are the spell, your energy, your choices, your awareness. You don't need to fear witches or wizards if you're not handing them the keys. So stop giving away access to people who never earned your trust. Watch what they ask, watch why they ask, and above all, stay awake.